Well, this is the basis of the three C16s that you see up there. This is the machine frame, the machine drivers, the journals, and the washers that you see at the top are the thrust washers that will go between the journals and the drivers to stop side play against the journals. This is the yoke for the cylinders, and that's the cylinders in assembly. This is the jig. Can't see it. It's alright. This is the jig for boring the journals. They fit in there like that, along with the spacers, which drills them accurately. They have to be drilled very accurately. This drills them accurately, so that all of them are not only centered, but they're all exactly the same. This jig, this side of the jig, is the side in which the tires are bolted in, and then they're turned. Then after the wheels and tires are assembled, the whole assembly is returned by mounting it on here to make sure that the whole assembly is true to the axle, which is, of course, as you can see in the middle there. All of this goes in a collet in the lathe, of course. This is the blanks, and you can see the end of it there maybe in the video. This is the blanks that have been milled that became the journals. And the little lips, of course, fit in the frame. I'll put them in the frame so you can see. If I had my glasses, I could do this a lot easier. But there's a journal in the frame, and of course with the spring it will move up and down like that.
C16 with working suspension.
Yeah, C16 with working suspension, yeah. Oh, there's my glasses. Now, oh wow, now I can see what I'm doing. The cylinder assembly goes on the front like that, and then the yoke will go on here like that, and the cylinders, of course, go in on each of the cylinder assemblies like that.
Yep. Here you can see the journals in the spaces now. I got them cleared in here.
Yeah.
Right. And the turned wheels.
Of course, two flanged and two blind for each side. These ones here are the insulated ones, and the other ones, of course, are not insulated. So that it's grounded on the engineer's side. This is the motor that we will use to drive it with. I don't have a gearbox with me. We will, in fact, scrap this locomotive because we need the front and back of the cab and the domes and the boiler from this locomotive. We'll sell the balance. This tender we will use, and that's the tender there for 278. This is a later version of 278, so it has the taller domes. We're not going to use those. We're going to use the shorter domes. I think it looks better proportioned. This is some of the residual pieces that we have left over. This is a cab from a damaged locomotive, but we need one side wall from that because we have one damaged side wall of the cab here. These are some of the other pieces, some of which we will use, some of which we won't use. This is the firebox, which will go on the other frame down there. This is just a Northwest Shortline quartering jig, which we'll use to set up the drivers. This locomotive has a Grant drive system in it, which is a micromotor and plastic-centered drivers. We're not going to use that chassis. We're going to use the chassis with the brass drivers. This is not a sprung locomotive. This is a conversion kit in the original Kemtron C16. So this is a rigid locomotive. It's not sprung. This is just an adapted set of drivers and a drive system. The original locomotive drove from the tender through this slot through a universal joint in the firebox. So the motor was in fact inside the tender and drove through a drive shaft through here. What we're going to do is build the locomotive with the motor in the locomotive, which is a better system, I think.
Good. Right. What we're looking at here, 3 finished C16. Tell us about them, Harold.
Well, the first one is DRGW 225, and the approximate era of about 1930, 1933. The major recognizable things about this locomotive is 9.5-inch air pumps and the box headlight and the large old Buddha generator. It has a toolbox on the pilot. Some of them did, some of them didn't. I chose to put the toolbox on this one. This is basically the same locomotive that you see the frame being built there. It's sprung, the motor is in the boiler. It is a slow-speed motor and a 36-to-1 gearbox.
So in other words, it'll run approximately the same speed as a Kodama K27.
It'll run, yeah, actually a little bit slower, actually. If you
Smaller drivers.
Smaller drivers, yeah. The next one, which is another model, same thing, it's a Kemtron C16. This represents DRGW C16, about 1947-48. This is a locomotive that went to the World's Fair in 1949, but we didn't, well, the customer did not want it with the big box headlight, the diamond stack, but it has all the other features of the later locomotive. It has an elevated, very large air tank on the back of the tender. 268 had a large platform on the back of its tender, and it's been duplicated here. It has 11-inch air pumps, a modern headlight, and a modern generator. It also has conduit on the roof. Some of the locomotives did, some of them didn't. 268 did. There are a few other features that make it, again, unique to 268, which have been modeled in it. Neither one of these locomotives, by the way, is finished yet. They're not finished yet. There's still a great deal of piping to go on them. Neither one of them have their air system on the tender, and 268 doesn't have its sand lines or its conduit, and it doesn't have some of the steam lines to the various appliances, including the bell and a few other things. The marker lights, if anybody notices, are not, the bases are on the locomotives, but the lamps are not. The reason is all the delicate things I put on at the end. When you're working on them, there's a tendency for them to get broken off. The last one is a locomotive also made from two kits that had been fairly damaged. In this case, the locomotive, the presumption story is the locomotive has been sold off of the RGS to a logging line, and although it retains some of its DRGW features, it does also have some features that would be, more in keeping with a logging line or a private road. It has a low-walled tender and a smaller air tank, and it has lattice boards for coal. It has 11-inch pumps as well, but you'll notice that it has footboards at the front and the back for switching, and which is quite common with logging roads. This locomotive has a Grant drive system, which is a micromotor and a set of Grant drivers. Again, this locomotive is not sprung; it is a rigid frame. The customer supplied the components, and the RGS shops assembled it the way the customer wanted it assembled. This locomotive is equipped with full working KD couplers, front and back. You'll notice that the other two are equipped with working Janey couplers. That's right.
Yeah, it's sure come a long way since I was last here.
Do you want
It's
me to
only...
turn it over so you can see the bottom?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Well, what was it, 3 months ago? Christmas time when I was here, right?
Yeah, 3 months.
And it's now Easter. And this is how far we've come with the locomotive. How far you've come with the locomotive. You've done a ton of work on it. Gee whiz.
I don't know whether you can see or not if I do it, but the rods are split and knuckled as they should be. I can move one of the drivers so you can see it.
All right, let me zoom in on it. Yep, you can see that now.
And of course the loco is completely sprung.
And it's got the slow-speed motor and the 36 to 1 gearbox.
The slow-speed motor, the 36 to 1 gearbox, and you can see on the number 3 axle there the sound can. So it's complete with sound.
And we'll put it back on the track and run it in a few minutes again.
Yeah, no,
I'll shoot a few pictures of it. And what we're looking at here are the parts that still have to be mounted on it, plus the parts that are on back orders.
Yes, well, and also, of course, the parts that we didn't use, which are laying to the back, which were from the original C16, which we used as a starting point. Since we didn't have a modern one, we made a modern one out of an original one, which is pretty much what the prototype did.
Right.
Well, I guess we can do a little bit. We can turn it around so you can have a look at the back of the
Show the back head,
interior
yeah.
and
The cab interior. And this is 268.
That's 268, yeah. We can bring 268's tender over so you can see the side of 268's tender. Yours will look virtually identical to this, except the size of the tank and the placement of things like that. bloody likely. No, Ernie doesn't have
This will never be painted. Ernie will never
It
paint
will
it.
never be painted. That's why I had to keep it so clean. No, it'll never be painted. The only thing that has to be added, and these details will be put on at the very last, is the rear rail frogs. The hooks are already there for them, so they've already been drilled to fit. And the chains on the tender trucks, and the hooks are already there for them, but I put that on at the very last little thing. That's sort of along with the bell and whistle cord and marker lights and little things like that that are during construction are going to get bent or going to get broken, so just leave them off till the end.
Sure. And all those brackets have got individual nut bolt washer castings holding them on?
all these brackets have little individual nut and bolt washer castings, and I don't know whether you can see on the deck here or not at the back. The actual angle bracket tie downs have nuts and bolts in them as well too. They hold the tank down so that when the tank is going to be tightened, you've got some nuts to pull up to tighten it down. Because the other end of the tie down rods are of course anchored into the deck, so if you want to get the tank off, and unions and fittings on it.
You can see there's the ports for the speaker, port holes.
Yeah, there's the portholes. Those are the portholes for the speaker, of course, for the sound. The frame, of course, underneath is pretty well scratch built because the original C16 had a wooden floor, so of course you don't want to have that anymore.